sitting here with Dylan Flavell, the founder and managing partner of Springpoint Consulting, which is an organisation that works on an evidence basis to lead change and transformation in organisations. And Dylan has long worked with the Australian business community across many industries, in fact, very experienced. He's also running a fabulous series of Connect and Learn sessions called Talking Point, which originally were face-to-face sessions and now are online, and they frequently sell out, so they're extremely popular. So Dylan, welcome.
Thank you. I'm Kirstin, lovely to be with you.
What has it actually taken for you to lead people through these initial stages of COVID-19?
As consultants, you're very often, and as a small business, you're very often just focused on your clients, and that can keep you really busy and can keep everyone really engaged in the problems that others have. But now we're in a period of time where we're facing into some really new stuff. In some ways, I've really enjoyed this period of time. It's obviously given me a chance to connect and re-engage with my own business in a fundamentally different way. One of the things I've definitely tried to do in this period of time is just personally me connecting with mentors that I have and people that, have different perspectives to me on running businesses, and people who've given me some particular advice and steer. I think it's difficult to get through these times with great skill without pulling on the skills of other people. And I've spent a good period of time reaching out to my network to make sure that my thinking through some of these things is sound, both for the immediate term and from a commercial perspective as well as a long term.
Springpoint is an organisation that usually helps organisations through points of disruption. None of us, probably with the exception of Bill Gates, anticipated that 2020 would be a year of disruption brought about by a virus, of all things. The reality is that the small and medium enterprise sector has been hit really hard by that kind of disruption. I'm wondering, as a small business leader, how you've managed to keep your business alive in the last few months, and what sort of things you've been thinking through and what actions you've had to take yourself.
In my mind anyway, it's a blend of trying to make difficult decisions around cost early, but also valuing people and team and making sure they can see a path with the business that means they're not on a downward trajectory. We've done quite a bit of strategy work in the past 6 to 9 months as a business about the things we felt we needed to do to be ready for the next few years ahead. And I guess what this time has given us is a lot of opportunity to actually do something about that. It's so hard as a small business to work on the business and in the business and at the same time. And I guess we've put in a lot of discipline over that first month of COVID to lock down a really, really granular plan and to change our practices to be daily check-ins around what we're doing to deliver on that plan. And all of that plan was internal. So probably at 60% of our work now is internally focused on our own product development, but we had to get really disciplined about what that was going to be. Because we didn't want to spend the next 6 months delivering stuff that we didn't think was going to be fit for purpose and work for clients. So there's a couple of things there that are going to stand out in my mind. I said, first one being cost, and second one being how we make meaningful use of our time now.
How have you thought about product development given the level of uncertainty? I mean, your clients they don't know what kind of future they're emerging into and how they're going to service their own markets. How do you do product development in that sort of environment?
We're really going through what did we think from the research and also our own experience had changed in the market or would change, and how did we test our assumptions about the things we were building based on that. And so that was our first step. The second thing that we're doing to answer your question around product development, and we're doing it as best we can, but product development's best done with a client. And not in a back room. So we're being as clear as we can about what can we build by ourselves before we need to then take it and build it with a client. And given that we haven't got as many clients as we normally would to do that, how do we find that not just proxy clients, but real clients, but in a slightly more entrepreneurial way? I think what this has changed or is changing is there's a lot less activity, there's a lot less consuming, budgets are restricted. So you go, how do I really provide value? But I'm also just seeing organisations go, shit, if we can do a lot more than we thought we could do in the space of time that we thought we could do things. And small businesses in particular are in a great spot. They've got agility on their side if they're prepared to think in the right way, which some of the large organisations are just starting to realise that it doesn't need to take 2 years to transition a workforce to work from home. We did it in 2 weeks and some of them 2 days. So, I mean, it's massively changing what's possible, I think, which is pretty exciting. And small businesses, you know, are in a spot to be able to think about that probably more uniquely than others.
Yeah, that's pretty inspiring. And I think you're right. I mean, small businesses are very, very much used to being very nimble and agile. You're a small business that works with very large clients. So you have a unique dual perspective, I think, on what it takes to run and lead a small business, but also what some of your bigger organisations are going through. What do you think small businesses would love to have that in terms of resources and capability and expertise that perhaps the big guys take for granted?
It's just the ability to think ahead and do some, if you like, some modelling and testing of what the future might look like, and then what's our capacity and capability as a business to meet those various scenarios. So, you know, we see large organisations, you know, sort of large enterprise or corporates who've got a corporate strategy team, and they'll be thinking about scenarios that aren't entirely different. They may not have had this thing in mind exactly, but they've thought about different business model options. And, you know, right now we're definitely being tested, whether we're feeling it right now or whether we'll feel it in 6 months. Our operating model is probably going to change. So, you know, I think it's an evolving thing, and me, like every other business leader, is sort of still trying to anticipate what that is. But just the ability to have either a partner, a mentor, or a facility somehow to help you test your current business model relative to the future, I think is really important. I think that would be one of the main functions. I guess the other one is most large corporates have a HR function, right? You know, and sometimes they do a great job, and sometimes they're focused on more compliance type stuff. Sometimes they might be focused more on strategy. But how do you make sure you balance immediate needs, which can have a strong cost focus, with the need to continue to invest in your business so that it's ready when demand comes back on, in whatever form that looks like? You know, not being deplete of talent and of good people and of goodwill because you haven't done things in the right way. I mean, your culture would never be tested as much as it would in the previous 3 to 6 weeks and the coming 3 to 6 months, in terms of what you really felt and the way you really lead under pressure, I suppose. I think my advice would be, I think you can do work now, rapid work, to define this sort of idea of what are your no regret bets, the things that you go, we don't entirely know what the future looks like, and it's always going to be a moving feast. But if we look at the things that we know about the future of work, which of those do we think don't really change? And then what are the implications of those for the current position of our business? So if we're seeing a big gap between things that we think are truisms for the next few years, next 4 or 5 years, and our business isn't there, then they need to be a priority to start working through those things. I think it could be a danger to sort of wait for what the world will look like in certainly in 3 months. It's probably going to look a bit different, but I suggest there'll probably be some pervasive themes that won't change anything. And of course, plans change, and you need to continue to be sort of agile. But I think you need to be able to start that work and go, what are the principles that we know? Yeah, we know will stay the same. So that would be probably my general steer, and we're having to do that as well. Because as I said, we're a bit lucky that we'd had a bit of a head start on some of the work, but yeah, the world's changed, so we're having to retest all that too.
Yeah, absolutely, and it'll keep changing, for better or for worse, right?
I mean, there's some nice research out there that looked at great practices of the GFC period, which I think will probably be dwarfed to some extent by this. They talked about leaders having this sort of through cycle mindset, the ability to think of things, through cycles of where we're at now, which is to sort of react. Then you sort of started to, prepare, and then started to deliver at some point in time. So how are you doing something for all of those phases of work through from survive to thrive? It's sort of keeping things going immediately, continuing to engage with our clients, because We need all of the insight we can into their challenges so that our business can continue to reflect them, but also prepare our own business for the medium to longer term. And I think clients are going to be discerning about what they're buying and why. There'll still be great opportunities within that. It'll get us to sharpen our focus. But, I guess for us, we're thinking much more about how we don't see lazy costs within our products and services. How a client could look at it and go, that doesn't need to be cheap at all, but that is high value. I can see how I can pitch that and get funding for that. It's adding value to our business.
Yeah, I think that lens of value is incredibly important, and the businesses that can deliver value will capture value as well. So last question, I've asked a lot about some of the challenges that small businesses are facing and that businesses are facing in general. What's the one thing that really motivates you and energizes you about the future?
I think you can get caught in a cycle of just running the business, and that means being really focused on your clients and delivering stuff for them, but not stepping back to be able to think about what your business could be and having the time to invest in what your business needs to do that thing. Right now, in many ways, we've been given a funny little gift of, for some of us, more time to work on that, and step back from the routine of day to day, which gives you the opportunity to think about some of those questions and ask yourself what you really want your business to be. And so for me, if I think about my business, I go, wow, that's a question that I've sort of tried to ask myself for the last few years, and I've come up with some answers, but now there's no avoiding that question. It's hard to change a business, but right now, I think most large organisations and small organisations are going to be asked to change their business, and so that is really energising.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today, Dylan. I've been talking with Dylan Flavell, the founder and managing director of Springpoint Consulting, doing some amazing work with clients around transformation change and dealing with the new normal. If you've watched the video today, please comment. We would love to hear what you have to say. How have you, as a small business leader, been dealing with some of these challenges yourself? How are you coping with the changes, and how are you thinking about the future? Thank you for joining us. I'm Kirstin Schneider. I'm the founder and managing director of Hyfen, and we're a business consultancy that helps businesses manage intangible assets and at this time, business recovery and business renewal. Thanks for watching.